So I'm very happy to be standing here alive and read you 3 poems that refer to what over the last few years I was dealing with in this first poem. I don't know if either of the 2 people who are in the audience, I don't think so, I'm squinting now. It's dedicated to 2 doctors, 2 oncologists who treated me. And I want to say that it's very, very wonderful to be here, and one can make it through. So this first one is dedicated to, this first poem here is dedicated to both Patrick Swift and Dr. David Irwin. And it's entitled Black Magic at the Guest House. After being away from this house for so long, the land around is dusty and flat. Oh, they were the best exterminators who worked me like a crossword puzzle. Before they set up the subtlest coordinates, the bags the nurses touched only with gloves dripped into the walls was something they said would illuminate the pests. This before the buttons were pushed, before the staircase, the side porch, my favorite places to walk, were hit. Soon the whirling overhead began, and they were full of reverence. Saw wild cells lit up on a black screen, and when the whirling wound down, they took out their plums and let them sway on red strings. I could see all this from inside the tight mask that held me in place each morning. I could see the house that had been me with the same outline as before. Now, so much later, few strangers come to the guest house, but if they knock in the night, I will know them by the scars on their faces. And if they ask to be let in, I will bow, remembering that first time when a tearing wind vibrated my joists to exhaustion, left only part of the roof and my flesh still sheltering my bones. I have a funny story about that, because I thought, oh, I'll send this to both of them and see what they say. You know? And didn't get any answer for a few weeks. And I thought, oh no. I showed it. And I said, you think they could be insulted by this? Maybe it just says exterminators and all that. Well, maybe. And then it turned out it was, at least they pretended it wasn't the case. So I don't know what they really thought. Now this one is for David Irwin, who's a medical oncologist and an incredible human being. It's entitled Searching for a Healer. Short of having him speed toward your house in his car after midnight, his black bag bulging, short of this, you'd do well with a doctor who has kept me in his glass, twisting the lens until he saw me clearly. I'm one of those who sees his own shadow as a dire diagnosis. This small man knows all that as I sit on the other side of his broad mahogany desk for no good reason and say, hey, I'm still here and I have you to blame. What are you doing, man, he says. No reference to cell counts or next month's scan, only a wide open face young enough to be my son's. And with 2 other patients waiting in adjoining exam rooms, he asks, what have you been reading? Telling me he's just finished Paradise Lost, and now he's sunk in Conrad. This is his tightrope to walk, the art of medicine and that of the heart. We part after a few minutes, but his face hovers above me, a vulnerable being, in love with this world. Let's see. Okay, odd new feeling. This was written a few years ago. In fantasy, it's always the heavily armed thief. But just now I have an odd new feeling. Sitting in the garden near the multicolored poppies, The morning light shining down through the outstretched petals, pink, orange, rose, tiny cups of shadow. The younger poppies are working to stand up, so slowly I cannot see their movement. Their thin stems are hairy, their hooded heads turned and curled like a clown's alphabet, like sperm tipped every which way, sheathed and gleaming with the last molecules of dew. The new, odd feeling, now almost forgotten, was about death, and how I'd like to invite it into the garden, to speak to it in detail with an open heart, about all the seasons I've seen. Maybe we'd even cook together, eat together, drink a whole bottle of red wine together, laugh at being stereotyped, predator or prey. Yes, today I would now ask death to come into the garden, to sit within arm's reach of the poppies that are shaking like paper ears, the sun flooding through them. I could do this. I could sit here with this beautiful colored flower. So, yeah, I'm going to try to read it. This is a two-part, I would say it's a prose poem. I have not read this poem. So, two sad human stories with crocodile. I'm a dog person, but I love the story of the largest ever croc snapping up expensive hunting dogs in Louisiana, just as the dogs would sprint across the moss-covered bridge at eye level. The sad part is when the huge guy was finally detected under the bridge by the beeping of one of the missing hound's collars. When the 400s arrived, they stood around the locomotive of teeth and almost cried real tears as they unloaded their guns and slit open the long, light belly where they found half a dozen other tags worn smooth and tangled like earrings in an abandoned jewelry box. 2. The other tale is of the Crocodilus porosus that has the very best skin, scale, texture, and pattern, and is being farmed at Hermes in Sydney. They say each pattern is as individual as a person's fingerprints, adding value to their product. It takes 4 to 6 crocodiles to fashion one handbag, as only a small percentage of the belly skin is usable, and buyers are languishing on the waiting list for bags costing up to $50,000. Hermes has claimed that the farming enterprise is an expensive venture because each animal needs to be housed in its own room. So, I was going to say we're behind Iraq, but that's hardly the case. But this poem did come from a headline in the last encounter with Iraq. The headline was, U.S. troops tighten vice around Baghdad. Surely poetry must have saved one leg, one foot, one toe, one paw, somewhere, sometime. Surely it must have fed one empty mouth, one extended belly, healed one gaping chest wound, one sizzling patch of skin, one shattered upper arm, one femur. Surely poetry has clotted one fresh red wound, become pillow for one quaking orphan, solace for someone looking for anyone's sanity beneath all this fallen debris. Out of the now empty sky, someone still calls heaven, surely.